We are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Cultural Salon, where we showcase nursing excellence around the world. And today I'm very honored and pleased to interview Miss Clare Cable, which is an author and a nurse leader, but I will let her introduce herself. Claire, I prepared some questions for you, but I would like this would be a conversational interview if you're happy about it. So I'm so glad you are here and that you share your new book that just came out, and also that you share your experience as a nurse, as a leader, and the amazing job you do. Because this channel, Nurses Move, is dedicated to especially internationally educated nurses to help them flourish abroad, And so I want to inspire them by showcasing all the nursing excellence around the world. So they have inspiration and they also following and yes, keep in touch and learn more and more from our guest. So thank you very much for coming. I need to check if you're live. I already saw a few people tuning in. Please, could you introduce yourself and tell to those nurses who don't know you, because maybe they come to us for the first time, who you are, your career path, and where you come from. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dina. And thank you so much for the invitation to be part of the Nursing Cultural Salon. It's a real honour. So thank you. My name is Clare Cable. I am the Chief Executive of the Burnout Trust for Nursing, which is a grant-making trust based in the UK. Some of you may have heard of the Nursing Now Challenge, which is an international network for students and early career nurses, and the Burnout Trust for Nursing was responsible for kind of co-creating and funding that network. So that's something we're really proud of. And if you have early career colleagues, I'll just put in a quick plug, which highly recommend that you, if you are, less than 5 years qualified or you're still a student, then the Nursing Now Challenge is a wonderful source of support. In terms of me and my career, I am a children's nurse by background, but I've spent a great deal of my career working in quality improvement, evidence-based practice, and policy. But for the last 12 years, I've been working in the not-for-profit sector, charities. In the UK, we call it the third sector, and been responsible for nursing leadership within the charity sector, previously with the Queen's Nursing Institute Scotland, and now with the Burnout Trust for Nursing. So I'm slightly what they call kind of poacher turned gamekeeper. I spent the last 10 years writing grant applications, and now I'm working for a grant making trust. But I hope that gives me a degree of empathy about the challenges for organisations that are dependent on grant making trusts, and we are looking to work as in a very relational way as a grant maker. But that feels like a whole different conversation.
Well, I came to you and we met at a BMJ conference, but didn't really have much time to chat. And I came to you, I was inspired by you because I am part of Nurses in Charge, non-profit organization, which is based in Florida, but we cover 22 countries. And I am the regional director Europe for Nurses in Charge. And I'm trying to build this network. So I came to you because I was inspired and I really wanted to steal a little bit of your brain to understand how to be a better leader in charity. Also, I come from 12 years of volunteering in the Italian Red Cross when I was in Italy, and I covered few roles actually on the local, regional level. I also managed some national event in Rome. So I already have my background in charity and volunteering, But now being part of this fast-growing non-profit organization, I was so inspired by. I was looking for actually a leader in the charity sector who could actually help me. And when I saw the Burnout Trust and your leadership, I took my eye on you, and I said, I need to know this person. But what is really touched me a lot is that when we have a meeting, you make me feel so comfortable straight away. Because, I think respect and reverence for those who are above you is important, because we need to have a powerful and, two-way helpful conversation. So I think it's important, but you put me on my comfort straight away, I would say. And as the experience, 22 more years of experience in international nursing, what I found is actually, and I talk about several times about this, that the best leaders are those who are open to talk, who put you, make you feel comfortable, make you feel heard, listen, and happy to share your thoughts. So I wanted to please you and thank you for this. And
well, Dina, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that, because that's something I'm very aware of. I was having a conversation with some colleagues the other day about how we create safe spaces for conversations, and how, as a facilitator, how can you enable that space to be safe? And the reality is, it's not in any one person's control. But I think one of the things that some of us who come with a label, a label that says chief executive, I forget that can be unsafe for other people. Yeah. So for me, it's really important to put people at ease, to recognize the fact that sometimes the labels we come with leave other people feeling kind of slightly intimidated or in awe. So if I'm serious about making conversations, having good conversations, then I need to communicate really quickly that, I am open and listening and really keen to hear from others. And sometimes the labels of seniority can get in the way. So I'm delighted to hear that.
Thank you very much. And yes, I think actually.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, really, I'm impressed. I'm delighted. I'm honored, and so I would like that this conversation really based from this. Also, because you wrote a book, and I would like to talk about this book. But really, this book is so important, which I have here. Is so important for all nurses, but I think it's essential for nurse leaders, especially. This is amazing. I put my notes. I didn't finish, unfortunately. I've got, it's half term. I've got my kids home.
Look.
So before going to the book, actually, I would like to ask another question. What actually make you think about quality improvement, is about also leadership? Why this transition from bedside, we'll say, or the word, the clinical word?
So, I guess I've had a slightly unusual career in that I moved away from clinical leadership quite swiftly because I got frustrated. I could see the things that needed to change, which is why I stepped into quality improvement, because I just thought I want to learn the mechanisms to enable nurses to make the changes that need to happen, that are bigger than sort of individual procedures. But these are kind of system changes that need to happen in order to humanize the way in which we care for people, in order to make the caring environment more person-centered. And so quality improvement felt like the obvious way forward, and also that real commitment to evidence-based practice.
Absolutely.
Making sure that all that we do is predicated on the best possible evidence. And so that's why I took that step. And then I moved into policy, which again, it's that sort of influencing at the highest level, realizing that there is only so much you can do kind of locally. And I had the privilege of being a policy advisor with the Royal College of Nursing in Scotland, where I was, in Parliament regularly, working with members of the Scottish Parliament, because health is devolved. So health policy is directly under the control of the Scottish Parliament. And it was amazing learning, getting to understand the way in which strategic decisions are made and having the opportunity to influence on behalf of the nursing profession. It was a huge privilege. But I guess the move into working with charities, it was an opportunity perhaps to bring all of that experience together. What, as you well know, the charity not-for-profit sector has that wonderful opportunity to be agile, because we aren't caught up with the same level of sort of bureaucracy and complex decision making, but also to be critical companions, because we're not accountable to a membership or a government, or we can actually speak truth to power. And that felt like a real opportunity to step into the third sector and draw on all that wonderful experience in quality improvement and think about how is it that we can develop leaders and make a kind of offering. So in my previous role, I was co-creating and able to run leadership programs, and that was just such a joy and a privilege to offer spaces where nurses and midwives can step in and discover themselves, to find their voice as leaders and find their confidence and their sense of renewed vision. And I guess that's kind of where the book came from, was that experience. My co-author, Kate, and I worked on that program together. And I guess from that, we thought, there's an opportunity here to share some of what we have learned through the process of developing nursing and midwifery leaders, to maybe sort of bring that into a book that we could share. Because as I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast knows, we are at a time of extraordinary challenge in health and social care globally. The challenges around funding and workforce mean that every practitioner, every leader is experiencing real pressure, and some are able to thrive through that pressure, but for many it is the source of immense stress and pain and sadness. And so how do we create a different future together? So that's kind of where the book came from.
Yes, it's a lot as well, because, and I want to explain a little bit about Nursing Now Challenge, which is this leadership development program that is for early career nurses, but it is also for student nurses, right? So I'm very fascinated about it, because as I'm a career coach for international nurses, I'm the regional director for Nurses in Charge. What I do in my business, but especially in the charity, is really focus on young nurses or student nurses, because I believe that for leadership, there's no, a certain age. The earlier you start to develop your leadership skills, the better you become a leader throughout your career. And what I think is nurses are leaders as per their nature, because we lead a patient throughout the healing part, and we lead our colleagues as well. So leadership, what I try to explain to the audience, to people who contact me, ask me, and so I would like they please share your opinion, is the leadership, the sooner you practice, the better it is. So never put in mind, a time frame. Okay, I will do my clinical experience and then I will go to leadership. I will do all my master on my programs and then I will be able to become a good leader. What I really actually say is you must develop your leadership skills, which are really human skills, as soon as possible. Because if you go through all your academics journey, but then you lack of these important skills, then we found that, healthcare is not led by real leaders, but just people that have a couple of more than a couple of letter after their name. So what you would like to say about start leadership as soon as possible? Leadership skill, I mean. Yes, thank you.
Of course. And we bring, we learn to be leaders long before we step into our professional lives. So I guess my first experience of leading was in the Brownies. That may be I don't know how that translates internationally, but the Girl Scouts, I guess.
Okay, yes.
So I think I was probably 8 when I had a patrol, a small group, and I was the leader of that small group. And we have all sorts of leadership opportunities through our childhood. It may be that you are the eldest sibling. That's a leadership role. We learn how to lead others in all sorts of different ways, and we bring who we are through our childhood experiences, our experiences at school, at university. When we have stepped into leadership positions, we bring all of those skills with us into nursing. So bringing others with you and learning how to listen, learning how to engage others, those are skills that we hone in many, many ways in our professional lives and outside of our professional lives. But they shape who we are as leaders. And we all lead differently because we bring ourselves to that role. And we don't have to be a certain kind of leader. I think in some ways it's helpful to have role models, but in other ways we need to show up as ourselves.
Exactly.
There are aspects of leadership which we can hone by looking at others, but actually I need to show up as me, not as someone else. So for me, leadership development is lifelong, and it's about growing self-awareness.
Exactly.
And sometimes those leadership programs are opportunities for others to hold up the mirror for you, to give you really precious feedback about what it's like to be on the receiving end of you. And that is where safe spaces become so important.
Exactly.
Because to create spaces where it feels safe enough to hear that and understand that and develop how you show up and how you enter every conversation. Those are really precious opportunities. But I guess that there's never too early. We lead at every level. We lead on every shift. We lead in every interaction. So whilst there are some people who have kind of senior management kind of titles, we are all leading all the time. And I think it's really important to recognize and acknowledge that, but also develop ourselves wherever we are in our career, and to be hungry for that learning and that development. I'm maybe a chief executive, but gosh, I have so much to learn still. And I often reflect on my encounters and think, gosh, I could have handled that very differently. And it's important to take that time to reflect and to invite that feedback and recognize that feedback as a gift,
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And sometimes it's hard. It's hard
It's hard,
but
yes.
to recognize that that's important, because so often we think something has come across in a particular way, but it was not received in that way. And that is, our developing wisdom is to understand how we adapt the way in which we show up, the way in which we say things, recognizing that those we work with, those we influence, will hear things perhaps in different ways, and to be more sensitive to that as we grow and mature as leaders.
And I really am pleased that you say this, because what I actually want to ask you now is, as you said, we are not living a beautiful time in healthcare globally. And to me, this is not really a good time for nursing itself. I see nursing in a edge of a cliff, in a moment of evolution and revolution, where if we don't really take the leap, we're going to fail dramatically. So what I notice is now we're living this moment of blame, of victims as nurses. And what I try to pass, the message that I try to pass to nurses is, yes, the system is made in a way that really doesn't help us. I don't see that the system has been built against us as professionals necessarily. I believe the system's been built by itself based on certain power that come and goes throughout the decades. So I don't see that the system is necessarily against the nurses, but yes, the system is not made to help nurses, we can say that. So the message that I really want to pass to nurses, and actually I found in your book, is that we are in power. We are in power of our own well-being. We are in power on our own action and way of being and way of leading. And so I would like to explore this conversation with you a little bit further, because what I notice is you move from leadership to this moment. That's why you wrote the book of, you want the well-being of nurses being cared for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think if we are going to equip ourselves to be seen and heard and influential at this moment, then attending to our own well-being is critical.
Yeah.
If we are going to change the world of nursing, if we are going to be truly present for those we care for, then giving people the time and space and support to look at their own flourishing is really important, so that together we can build systems that enable people to flourish. And I guess the book gives us an opportunity to explore some of the challenges in a bit more depth, to name them, to name how we're feeling. It gives us a language to describe what's going on. My colleague Kate wrote an earlier version of this book for midwives, and your audience may be interested to know that for several of the London healthcare providers actually bought copies of the book for all their internationally educated nurses, to help them find the language for what was going on, to find a description of, sometimes we're left with a feeling, and it's hard to unravel what's happened and how it's left us feeling. And we hope that the book helps people unpack that and just begin to articulate what's happening in a way that's helpful, so that we can reflect on it and maybe take action and talk about it, reach out to others, but also find practices that help us as individuals and collectively heal from some of the things that we're experiencing. And the book intentionally explores burnout and moral injury and post-traumatic stress injury, and gives people an opportunity to think about the impact on themselves and maybe colleagues. I wonder if my friend is behaving in that way because, in fact, she is really close to burnout, or she has experienced, a series of awful situations which have left her with that sense of moral injury, and trying to put a name to that, and then to think about healing. So I guess that's what we've tried. That was the intention. And as someone who's read it, Dina, I'd be interested to know how that landed with you and how you think that might be useful, particularly to internationally educated nurses.
Well, I found very interesting, and I could stop reading. I mean, I stopped reading all the time because I've got my kid in half term, which is quite hard reading. But anyway, I found so many overlaps with my book because, my book is The Awakening Nurse. And I think I share with you the same principle that the evolution revolution must start within. Because yes, the system is not helping us. To me, again, it's not necessarily against us. But if we don't work on ourselves first, we cannot really change the system, right? We cannot make the system working with us, co-creating. What I have to say is, for international educated nurses, there is another layer of complexity, because if they go through burnout because all the problem and the odd of the system they work in it, they also have extra layer of complexity due to the challenge of facing a new culture, isolation, a different language, or even, in order to have our registration with the NMC, for example, in UK, but this is true for each country, we must do pass a license exam, a competence exam, but also a language test exam. So we are capable to speak in academic way the language. The problem is that when we go into work with people, they not speak the perfect language. Often they speak slang. So, and I've been told many times that even though my strong accent, or I don't know, even though I still not feeling my English good enough still, but so many people told me, you speak a posh English. Well, actually, I never meant to be. And I just learn English. And so what I learned, what I've been trained, and it's been difficult for me, especially at the beginning of my journey here in UK, because people were speaking in slang. For me, it was difficult. So this isolation comes from also not being your own culture, not knowing all the cues of the culture and behavior that actually are particular for certain culture. But also
and then
this
to overlay
isolation.
Racism on top of that.
Exactly. I was arriving there.
Yes.
So many extra layer, and you have to learn a new system. You've been trained in your country with your own healthcare system, with your, the procedure that you think they are the same everywhere in the world, but no, because there is a different medical commission each country that allows certain procedure or certain medication. And a little sample when I was working in ICU. I worked in ICU in Italy for several years as well. So cataplasm, for example, in Italy we use for manage pressure, and in UK we use it for manage delirium. So I was shocked, and that as a other medication, for example. So you come with your confidence that you are, especially if you are a seasoned nurse like I was, 12 years experience in many roles in Italy. When I came here, I was confident about my skills. I just thought, my English, so it's better to play lead a step. So I started a nursing goal. But what actually put down my confidence is that it's like what I learned didn't matter anymore. I have to start again. So for tertiary educated nurses, there are so many more layers on top of the system that is really exploiting nurses.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. I could go.
I think that I hear the challenges that you experienced, and it's huge, isn't it? Because when you feel, you are experienced and confident and competent in a setting, to step into a different setting and suddenly find that all the things that were familiar are not there. It's very hard to hold on to that sense of confidence and competence, and then to overlay racism on top of that. And we heard we invited a number of nurses to tell their stories for the book, and it's heartbreaking.
Beautiful, actually. I saw it's very beautiful.
Truly heartbreaking. And so, how do we respond with thoughtfulness and compassion? But similarly, just as you were saying, Dina, I think there are huge parallels between the awakened nurse and Flourish. As you were talking about, systems harming, that systems can harm us. And in the awakened nurse, you drew out, global systems and power and inequality, they constrain what nurses do. And I guess we've tried to look at, at workplace cultures and pressure and unrealistic expectations, and how they also put huge pressures on nurses. So, looking at the global structures, and, we're perhaps looking in that way as well, but looking at how those structures land emotionally and practically for the individual nurse. And what we've tried to do is think about that sort of emotional literacy that helps people navigate, just as you have clearly articulated, that we're sort of pushing back against sort of damaging narratives at how the things that nurses are experiencing as they move as global nurses, how we navigate that. But I think both books look at hope.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think in the awakened nurse, hope comes from ethical action, and partnership and solidarity, and I think sort of yin yang. But we have looked at how hope perhaps comes from honesty and compassion, sort of boundaries and support. But what I love is that both books don't offer false optimism, but the hope is grounded and realistic. and I think, you know, it's active hope, and I think that's what we're kind of trying to
do.
communicate.
And another thing that I really love reading your book, but because I mean, I feel the same with mine, is that what we think is that if we empower nurses with knowledge, we can really help them thrive. They can, not even nurses or international educated nurses, but I want to talk about your book because we are here for that. And what I love a lot is actually, I thought, I could do it the same thing. Is actually you made the book, you both made the book in two parts. One is more educational, explaining burnout, emotional fatigue. But in the second part, you give actually action. But for example, my more each step, it was explanatory and action given. So what I really, I mean, I want to talk about burnout if you want, if you wish, like a collective issue, as you say in your book. And what I love is the way you explain the Maslow pyramid needs. That is actually is important for patient-centered care, but it's forgot for the human healthcare professional.
Yes, and I think that's at the heart of the kind of the person-centered framework, and that's kind of Brendan McCormack's work, that actually if we're serious about creating therapeutic environments for those we care for, then we can't do that without, you know, person-centered processes are at the heart of providing the culture where people can be cared for in that truly human and person-centered way. And caring for staff is inextricably linked. That in order to provide environments that enable patients to healing healthcare environments, then we need to be serious about the ways in which practitioners can flourish, and be thoughtful about what those prerequisites are. And that feels quite a long way from many workplace cultures at present.
Oh, yes. Yes.
However, you know, there are some great things happening.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you will have plenty of wonderful leaders on the podcast who are doing extraordinary work to think about positive and human-centered workplace cultures. But I know for many, and all the survey data, you know, we keep having more survey data out, which shows just how many nurses feel burnt out, feel stressed at the end of every shift, are considering leaving within the next few years. And those kinds of statistics just break my heart.
Yeah.
Because most of those practitioners stepped into nursing because there was a love for what they do, a real desire to care for others, and for people to feel that they need to step away is, as I say, heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking because if we say the number, and you say it in the book as well, more than 1/3, it didn't recover from COVID burnout. Still, it's just another burnout after the other, something like that. And the fact that we classify heroes, right? It's like they give us this badge and honor that we have to just doing, guess our strengths, our capability, our agency. No, you have to keep going. And this is why I love how you say that burnout is a collective problem that we all together must solve. So the systems to support the nurses, so the leaders must understand and support their team, but also the healing must start within. And this is actually why also I find so in line with you and your book, that so many nurses now, they want to move away from nursing because they think that doing another job they will be fine, that just living nursing will be fine. What actually I realized through the years that you must heal from burnout. If you are in or outside the hospital, it doesn't matter. You have to do your work within, starting from within. And so you must heal from your burnout, regardless if you are in another workplace or not. It's not what I'm trying to say is it's not necessarily leaving nursing that help you to cure your burnout, to heal from your burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet, we need to be aware of the risk factors. So I think we cite the Society of Occupational Medicine, who reviewed studies on burnout and identified a whole series of risk factors. And those risk factors are all there, for nursing. So we need to be aware that, we are at high risk of burnout, high work demands, long working hours, low staffing levels, the emotional labor of helping people, lack of autonomy, not enough time to spend with patients, poor social support, lack of respect, role ambiguity, not knowing what's expected, poorly managed change, poor communication, job insecurity, value conflicts, feelings of injustice, poor psychological safety, all of these things many of us will have experienced during our career, and they are risk factors for burnout. So how do we think about what makes a difference? And I guess that's what we tried to explore in the book, is the things that can make a difference. Things like kind of choice and control. How do we create environments where people are able to like the magnet hospitals in America, where we're thinking about sort of shared governance, where nurses are enabled to make choices and take control over the things that affect their working environments. Recognition and reward, of course, are kind of central to feeling valued.
Yeah.
And all credit to our professional unions who've been working so hard on our behalf with that. But supportive work communities and fairness, respect, justice. How do we build those in to the areas where we work, and the kind of clear values and meaningful work. Just taking time to recognize the things that bring joy and give us energy about the work that we do, when we are able to see the difference that we make in the lives of the people that we care for, to give ourselves a bit of time to reflect and celebrate together, and acknowledge that in one another. Just to take the time to say, I saw you interacting with that person. It was amazing what you did. That we give one another those kind of small moments of affirmation in the things that we do. And, sustainable workloads and safe staffing levels. These are the things that are central to preventing burnout. And we know that the research has been there for a long time.
Already,
yes.
Exactly.
So, together we need to do that as a profession, to be clear that this is what must be in place in order for us to practice safely, psychologically safely, as well as safely for those that we care for, because their safety, of course, is paramount. and nurses' well-being is inextricably linked to that.
So let's talk about it, but just more practical level. So Flourish, thriving as a nurse against the odds, a practical and emotional guide. What I love is, as I said, is in two parts. The first part is educational, I would say, so explanatory. Why you feel something was happened. You share stories from several nurses and midwives, and this is very beautiful. The second part, you give prompt, you give action to do, and actually is another thing that two books are in common, because I give prompt for reflection as well, because reflection is very important, right, to understand your emotion, because we learn to shut down our emotion to survive. Well, actually what is make us thrive is feel our emotion, understand our emotion, and work to heal for our well-being. So what in the practical level, if we can say that, what your book is given to nurses to help them with their well-being, and to leaders to help them their well-being, because they need to, and to help for their well-being, and for the well-being of their teams.
So thank you. It's lovely to hear it reflected back in that way. So the first part was, I guess, a map of the journey to enable people perhaps to recognize the journey that they are on. And these challenges were kind of framed as mountains, mega mountains that we need to climb. And there is, I like the word explanatory, I hope, and to give people the language to describe them, the language to describe these mountains, and recognizing that the things we feel could be for a number of reasons. So perhaps to give people information that helps them go, oh, well, I wonder if it's actually moral injury rather than burnout, or maybe it's a sum of both, or whatever. So the first part was about navigating those different mountains that we need to climb, and the second part was perhaps a toolkit, the things you might want to take with you on your journey, the things that you could choose to put in your backpack, but recognizing the fact that we are all wired differently. So the things that I like that enable me to flourish may be different from what you like. So all of those practices in part 2 are offered with a sort of, take what's useful and leave the rest. Take the things that you like and select them, put them in your backpack. So some people, like to write things down. They really like journaling, and there's plenty of journaling prompts. Other people like to move, so go for a walk, or, do things that enable you to, because sometimes moving the body unlocks our thinking. Others really appreciate, the opportunity to sort of more contemplative, reflective, meditative practices, focusing on our breath, because the breath is so central to how we're feeling. And often we lose sight of that. We find ourselves hyperventilating for long periods. We get stuck in that flight, fright, freeze,
flop,
where the adrenaline is running, and and equally we can fail to breathe. I mean, there's now a kind of well-known or well-documented phenomenon of email apnea, and I find myself doing it.
Oh, I didn't know about it.
Looking at emails, and I'm not breathing. I'm just breath holding for periods of time while I really concentrate on something. And so actually being conscious of our breath and the way in which we're using our breath can be so important. And we look at kind of polyvagal theory, and just thinking about how is it that we activate that kind of vagus nerve, because just so often we get stuck in these patterns of chronic stress.
Oh, yeah,
so the
definitely.
first thing is to recognize, and then to think about, okay, so what could we do to shift this? What are the practices I need to bring into my daily life, or even during a shift, to step out for 2 minutes just to breathe differently, or to move the body differently. When we get stuck, many of us who are leaders spend far too much time in front of screens. So many meetings on Microsoft Teams now, and you can just go from meeting to meeting to meeting. One finishes, the next starts. And having time just to step away, to stretch, to breathe, and take our minds to a different place, so that we are more present in what we're doing. It's so easy when you're going from activity to activity to have
dissociate
in your mind, but
yes.
to just pause before each meeting and ask that question, what's important about this conversation? How do I want the person or the group? What is it that I really need to communicate here? And how am I best placed to do that? How do I want to show up in this conversation? Just to take a couple of minutes before stepping in to each encounter to think, how am I? Who am I? Where am I? And how do I need to be in this conversation? And so that's what part 2 is about, is enabling people to choose the things that work for them, to help us all perhaps show up differently, and be curious about, how does it feel to be me today?
Absolutely.
What do I really need in this day? What do I need in order to thrive today? So yeah, that's what the 2 parts of the book are designed to do, and it's designed to be dipped in and out of. I mean, we have no expectations that people would buy it and read it cover to cover, but it's a book to pick up and put down and
discover once and twice. Yeah, because I think also coming to this book, or perhaps to mine, but I don't know, with a certain conscious, and then work on yourself, and then come back again and discover again that you can actually work on yourself again and again and more.
And to do that with friends and colleagues.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think many of the exercises are designed for people to do together. And I guess back to the Nursing Now Challenge, that is one network for early career nurses where you can kind of find your tribe. But that's one of the things that we invite people to do in the book, is to kind of find your tribe. And you may have that in your workplace. You may have really good friends and colleagues who you can work together with on some of the practices in the book. But that may or may not be a sort of psychologically safe space. You may want to find your tribe in other ways.
Oh, absolutely.
And many of your audience will be part of fabulous professional networks. They may be specialty networks. They may be groups of internationally educated staff, diaspora groups. There are many ways in which we can find our tribe, but it's really important that we do. That we can kind of reach out and know that you have a group of peer supporters. And many of these exercises in the book, we hope that people will be able to do together. And some of them are there for teams who perhaps are just beginning to build those relationships, or are looking to develop their sense of team. And they can be really helpful, to answer a series of different questions about our hopes and dreams, and the big why about what is my deep desire as a nurse, and to invite people to share those aspirations and think about how we can support one another in that. So yes, lots of lots of tools which we hope will enable conversations. We might want to put the link in the chat.
Yes,
in
I
the show notes, Dina.
put already. Oh no, maybe I put in the previous one. Let me see. And why I'll do that, because maybe I actually did in the previous one. I forgot this one. Last question, actually. If you want to leave a message to nurses now, what message will be?
Interesting question. I think the message is about giving ourselves permission to take that time to be serious about the journey of self-discovery. That, self-care, it's said over and over again, but self-care is not an optional extra. That your family, the people you care for, your colleagues, they need you to be well, and to be flourishing. But to do that, we need to take time to reflect, time to be, time to attend to our own health. And that's not selfish, it's essential. In all the roles that we play, there are people who depend on us. And so we owe it to them as well as to ourselves to take the time to be really thoughtful about what it is we each need to flourish, and then to commit that time for us as teams to do that, to find that time when we can be together as teams to develop, and as a profession, how do we do that for one another and collectively? So one small thing, sorry, I'm continuing to talk. It's not a short message, but one of the things that we're doing for as a collective of nurses who lead charities is looking at how we can create that time and space to support one another and to act more collectively. And I think now is the time where we really need to pull together as a profession and be thoughtful about how we create that time and space for the conversations about how we act collectively and strategically to enable us to flourish, so that we can support the individuals and families and communities who depend on good nursing care across the world.
And yes, absolutely agree. And perhaps I should talk about this early on, because nurses think that well-being or self-care is, the spa retreat or the bubble bath or, the face mask. Self-care is really something more deep that involve our soul specifically, and also this collective duty that I think we have, because unfortunately nurses that been the victims have become the perpetrators. So we really need to stop to fight each other and collectively support one another.
Yes, and I think it's giving ourselves the time and space to be curious about those things.
Yeah.
Where do they come from? What is it that's being enacted here? And there's nothing wrong with face masks and bubble baths. They're wonderful in their place.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I
Much
think
needed
it's
too.
thinking about that sort of that deeper reflection, taking that reflection a step further and saying, what's really going on here? What is it that we really need in order to move things forward and to support one another as we
I just want
stage. There we go. To support one another in our shared mission to make a difference for those who we are here to support and care for.
absolutely. So the book is available on Amazon, and
Glad
where
to see
else?
it's £11.99. Fantastic. The cover price is £15 and they've got it discounted. So that's good to see. And if you felt like leaving us a review, then that would be even
absolutely.
better. We'd be delighted.
Absolutely.
And the proceeds from the book, a chunk of the proceeds of the book go to the Burdett Trust for Nursing. But we would, be delighted for people to buy and share the book. Share it with others. If you're a nurse leader, maybe thinking about seeing whether funds could be found to share it widely. Just because we believe that there are opportunities there and prompts for conversations that enable us to navigate some of the challenges that we are all experiencing in this moment.
Yeah, and I will say that leaving nursing to heal from burnout is not necessarily the best decision, or anyway, it's not the cure anyway. So I would say it's very important to work on yourself for everyone who's listening. And so use this book is a powerful tool to use. Claire, what do you want to say?
I'd just like to say thank you so much for the opportunity, Dina. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. And I'd just encourage everyone who is in the audience just to think about, what is it that you could do today to give yourself a little time and space to reflect on your journey as a nurse, as a midwife, thinking about, where are you now, and what do you need to take a step forward with your own flourishing.
Thank you, Claire. I'm absolutely amazed and grateful for coming to my podcast today. And I'm so happy to share this knowledge and your time with us. And everyone, thank you for coming. Some people tune in, but I didn't share the comment because I was listening. And thank you, Anne. Thank you, Geraldine, for coming. And please, if you find this interview interesting and useful, share with the other people. Thank you very much for tuning in, to watching. And thank you, Claire, once again. It's been a pleasure.
It's a great pleasure, Dina. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.